Hello there, guys, and welcome back. Today's where I bring you not only knowledge, but valuable knowledge. I'm going to cover a little bit about if you're planning an upcoming or considering getting a planner. In this upcoming episode, we are going to cover exactly why you would need a planner and what kind of planner you would need, along with all the questions you should be asking those planners prior to hiring. Today, I'm going to talk about the top 3 tips that I think everyone should know before hiring their wedding planner. As we've done so many weddings, we've seen good planners and we've seen bad. And it couldn't be better stated than by a planner who I asked about why it is that certain planners, knowing everyone in the industry knows they're not the best planner, why is it that they still get so much business? And one planner simply put it to me in the best words possible. And he or she said, Amy, if you have a wedding planner that you've hired and they were bad and it just was all around a bad experience, for you to be able to go out there and write that review and put that out there would be as if you were saying that your wedding wasn't perfect. And not a lot of people are willing to go out there and post that for all their friends to see that everything just didn't happen the way they had hoped it had happened. And truer words have never been spoken. But from our point of view, when my brides tend to ask me, Amy, we're thinking about a planner. Do you have any suggestions? Not only do we give them a few suggestions, we tell them why each and every one of those suggestions we feel would be the best fit for them. Planning multicultural weddings, such as South Asian weddings specifically, there's so many things that are moving parts, from the multiple events to the rituals that have to be done for different regions of India, let alone just because it's in India or from India or origin is India. And then add the added craziness that our girls have been born and raised here. They are Americans and they want to be able to add a little bit of that modernness to their weddings. And that can be challenging and as well as overwhelming, because a lot of them are like, how do I make this work while still respecting my culture and my family's tradition, even though I've been born and raised here? And that's why hiring the right planner for you is one of the single best decisions that you could possibly make on your wedding day. But the big question is, how do I know which planner to hire? And what are the right questions to ask? Well, today, that's what I'm going to inform you guys about. So first and foremost, it's super important that your wedding planner has South Asian or multicultural wedding experience. From understanding the family dynamics to the pharaohs that you guys are going to be taking to the needs of the pundit when he asks for certain things. A lot of this, many people say, boils down to terminology, but it's more than that. It's understanding what is behind it in order to really know where you're at in the ceremony. A lot of planners, believe it or not, step out during the ceremony. And while the ceremony's happening, there are things that sometimes a pundit will need, or there are things that just need to take place during those times. And when they pop in to see where you're at in the ceremony in order to let the catering staff know that lunch is about to be served and when they need to have everything uncovered and presentable is really important. And if your planner does not know what is going on during this ceremony, a lot of them are running around asking vendors like, how much longer do you think? And there is no surefire answer to that. We've had pundits that have just gone rogue on the fact that they want to give some type of speech towards the end because they've got everybody's attention. So it's really important that you make sure that your wedding planner, whether it is day of, whether it is month of, whether it is full planning, it's really important that you decide early on, what are my needs? A full planner is going to work through everything with you. They're going to look at your mood boards. They're going to bring your colors together. They're going to give you advice on highs, lows, and, all those things when you're looking at centerpiece arrangements and what really will be the best bang for your buck. A wedding coordinator, in my eyes, should always be able to make you back the money you spent on them. They do this in so many different ways that I'm going to uncover here, but it's just super important that you make sure you haven't just hired someone who has dabbled or assisted with these weddings, but they actually have had the opportunity to sit down with others and be able to walk through the whole process. I know what you're thinking here. Everybody starts somewhere, and you're right. And this could mean getting a planner for way less than what the typical going rate is for the planner. But the question is, Do you want to be that experiment? Do you want your wedding to be that experiment? I'm all for it. I started somewhere as well, but there are levels of weddings in which planners can enter on. And if you are having a big, grand affair, yours probably isn't the entry level wedding that they need to begin on. So I encourage you to make sure that you've taken the time to really figure out if they have that experience that they need. Not just a referral from a friend, not somebody that you saw on social media with a few South Asian bride pictures, but you definitely are going to have to do the research, ask the right questions, and pick the right planner for you. Now, I want to jump back to the whole thing about me saying that I think a planner should make you back what you put into them. How in the world would that even be possible? Amy, what do you mean by that? Well, what I mean by that is having been in the business for a while myself, initially I may not have understood, but as I've moved in and out throughout the years, there are certain planners that just are better planners than others. And I know that this is a work in progress and I respect that. But I'm very particular about the planners that I refer. One, because I know what to expect as a vendor on the day of and how much work I'm going to have to do versus not have to do. So when we send out contracts, if I know in advance that a client has hired a wedding planner, there's a certain allocation that I give off of that as a discount because I feel that that is going to be a cost in which I'm going to work, say, 10% less than I would work with a bride who doesn't have a planner. So most of the time I will give, depending on the planner, I will give a certain percentage off because I know what I can expect from them. I know how they're going to deliver a timeline. I know what they're going to work through before the big day. It also cuts back on the number of conversations that I'm going to need to have with my bride in order to educate her about exactly what she needs prior to her wedding day and exactly what she needs to give to me prior to her wedding day in order for her to make the most out of my service. This is all vendors all the way around. We can really appreciate how much those planners bring to the table. And if you add that discount up across, each and every vendor, they should be well making you more than what you put into them. So when you start searching around for planners and you start getting those quotes back and you have sticker shock, you just remember if you're in the beginning of this process where you're doing vendor negotiations, if you haven't selected your venue and you want your planner to do that with you, they are going to save you thousands, if not tens of thousands of dollars because they know what they can get to, how much flexibility they have. And again, it could be the single most important decision that you've made during this South Asian wedding planning process. It's probably my number one tip in the top three of these in that order because it is essential that you take into consideration how involved your parents are going to be, how involved your aunties are going to be. Some of our brides are like, oh, I'm just going to have my aunties do this. I can tell you at no wedding have I ever seen one auntie handle exactly what it needed to be handled because our brides are still worried. They're still looking around for things. You're not going to get that level of expertise from allowing a family member. And while we love all of our family members, we just want to make sure that we encourage you guys to seek out a planner. And again, ask your friends what their experiences are, especially if they're like your best of friends and you're going to get the raw, honest truth from them. You can ask other vendors also because most of us, such as myself, I can give that answer. I usually won't go out of my way to give an answer, but if somebody asks me specifically about a vendor, there's something in my soul that just cannot lie. And I lay it out there. I've lost some weddings because of my honesty, and I've gained more than I've ever lost because they appreciate that transparency and me being honest. I have examples that I can give. It's not just a matter of me saying something, but being able to back what I'm saying means a lot to them because I've given them examples and not just a quick comment, no, they're not good or they're amazing. I've backed that with a lot of good details for them to make an educated decision for themselves. I'm a big fan. If you're doing centerpieces, I've seen enough of singulars. I really want to see that kind of up and over so that people can talk through it. I want to see the mid-range stuff so that people have something that feels very lush. And then I also want something a little low lying, all in which a group of people can communicate around. These are all great things that your wedding planner can bring to you, but that vendor list that they're going to be able to provide you with is super important. And the questions that you need to ask not only to the vendor, but to the planner is about kickbacks. Kickbacks are a big thing in big cities, and the amount that they're getting in a kickback can certainly range from low to high. And Most of you nowadays can even see this when you start looking through these Instagram accounts and you see a lot of planners using the same vendors time and time again, and there's no real change up in those vendors. It will give you an insight on who might receive what, and questions need to be asked. While there's nothing wrong in the world of giving kickbacks, it's all relevant when it comes to, are these the best vendors? So that brings us to our next segment of this show. What is it that I should be asking in terms of the vendor? Like, how can I approach it? That particular question, Amy? You just can't run into it like, oh, do you take kickbacks? Well, I would definitely ask them about their vendor list. And when they give it to you, are these like single people? Are you getting a good variety of like different vendors? Like some vendors might, I know that for our vendor list, we go specifically from cost. So we have low, middle, and high end vendors. And that is because not all my brides prioritize certain things. So I want them to be able to go through the list and say, okay, well, food, it's a priority to me. So I'm probably going to take the top vendor off this list. Decor, it's second. So I'll take the second. Videography is like my lowest priority. My parents wanted, it's not a big deal to me. And so that's how I structure my list. But I would definitely ask your planner and just ask them to be transparent, because sometimes those fees, that 10% is just added to the top of your package blindly. And sometimes that 10%, most planners, most of the good planners are usually like, Amy, just give that percentage off to my client. I think that would be beneficial. It all adds up for them. We appreciate the way that you guys work. Please extend that to them. So you want to know how that's being handled. Are they taking kickbacks? Because that also adds up. And when you think about it, again, when you're hiring a wedding planner, if they're taking kickbacks, if you paid them $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 to be your wedding planner, and then they're taking kickbacks, depending on how heavy those kickbacks are, they could double their proceeds from what they're making. I mean, this is a pretty lucrative business that you could be in. So you want to make sure that you're asking all the right questions, because in my eyes, every bride should get as much of a discount as possible. And if that's going to come from trusted vendors, who wouldn't want to know what vendors are the most trusted? So vendor relations, super important that you ask your planner moving into that. What are your relationships with your vendors, and how would you describe the impact that they have on the execution of your event? Because most planners like to work with similar team setups that they have, because they also know and can predict what the outcome is going to be. And everybody wants a predictable outcome. The next thing we're going to move on to is their problem solving skills. Everybody needs to know how their planners are going to handle certain situations should they arise, whether it's, we've had situations where siblings have passed out on the mandap. We've had situations where guests have had mild heart attacks and strokes. And thankfully, amongst South Asian weddings, there's always a doctor in the room. But these are details that you need to ask. How would you handle that situation? Or how would you handle if my caterer is stuck in traffic and they're not going to make it on time? What would be your save the day hero style move in a situation like that? It will give you a good idea of how quickly and responsive that planner can be in telling you exactly what they would do to solve the problem. For instance, Srinu and I were at an event, and there was a lot of security around, but someone had came in very, swift, and they had stole one of our bags, which had getting ready footage on it. And when I realized that it happened, that person was far beyond gone. And, I thought to myself, okay, what do I do in this situation? How can I quickly fix the situation without alarming my client and having her worried and upset? And so I immediately thought, the save in this is going to be, we're going to follow her back up to the room when she gets undressed, and we're going to do the whole thing in reverse order, right? Nobody would know it was in reverse order unless they were told, because we're going to be there. And when we reorder the pictures, it would look the opposite direction. And so the only people I told about this was the planner. I told the venue, because we had footage taken from the event venue cameras so that we could see like what happened, like who took our bag, that kind of thing, because we had to make a police report. So all of this stuff had to be done in the background, while at the same time, our client never knowing that all this chaos was ensuing. We made sure to tell the mother of the bride what we were going to be doing so that it didn't seem odd that we were getting ready pictures again. Amy, I would have never known it happened. And that just sang my heart song because I can't tell you how upset I was and hiding it. I just thought, can't they have a soul? Whoever took our bag, can they not have a soul and just put the cards like in the bathroom so somebody finds them and like leaves them at the concierge or something? I mean, so many things were going through our minds. Srinu was like sick to his stomach. It's a good thing we had like 5 shooters there that day, but it was one of the toughest things. And I think that had I not had so much experience under my belt, I don't think I would have thought that quickly to jump on my feet and be like, this is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to solve it. This is how I'm going to be the hero of the day. And this is how I'm going to save my bride's getting ready pictures. And that's exactly what you need in a planner. And we have seen some of the finest in action. And I can tell you, I look at them in awe. We had one planner during a destination wedding where it was going to rain on the bride's wedding day. And this bride had this destination wedding because she wanted to get married outside. So genius move on this planner's part that they actually put no actual wedding date on the invitations or any of the information. It was always just very generic as far as wedding ceremony. No dates were on anything. So the hero move for this planner was the shifting of events. So we moved into doing more of like a welcome celebration for not only the guests and whatnot. They went into like a photo shoot. And then on top of it, they moved the wedding date to flip to one of the other days so that she could have her wedding outside without the rain. And I thought, oh my gosh, you are by far the miracle worker. Yeah, like hands down. I was just amazed at like how they were able to do that and the communication that was set up so that every guest knew like what was happening next and what was changing and where to go. Because nowadays, most of our clients are having like white parties where everybody's wearing white. And so communication to all the guests is super important. And this is where your wedding planner can shine the most. So guys, at the end of the day, your wedding planner is a very powerful player in this game, from the way that they can organize things and provide all that information to your vendors, to the multicultural experience that they have and the vendor relations that they build. So when you go through and you begin moving into the new year after this awesome engagement season, and you say to yourselves, what kind of planner do I want? Not only should they be personable and someone you could have dinner with, they should also be someone that's relatable to, organized, and can handle any family dynamics that could pop up and occur. So guys, at the end of the day, it's super important that you work on finding a wedding planner that can not only tell your love story the way that you want it to be told, but also create the party that you're expecting to have. And no one else can do that better than the person that you put in charge. So guys, what have we learned here today? One, please make sure that your planners have multicultural experience, and South Asian wedding planning experience with lots of galleries is a plus, plus, plus. Vendor relations couldn't be any more important because that's how you're going to make back what you put into them as an investment. And lastly, how important is it that they have great problem solving skills as well as organization? Ask them, how is it that they present that to their vendors? We definitely need printable docs, not spreadsheets. Spreadsheets are for a different kind of work. And I always tell people, when I get a spreadsheet from a planner, I really do get upset about it because it's not so easy to print out. We need a printable sheet that we actually can print out and not have to reorganize and structure and do all this cutting and, adding to. So you want to make sure that organization skills are on par. One way to cut a planner is if you're sending over emails and you're not getting responded back to, that is one big red flag. You need to make sure that you are being responded back to quickly, promptly, and in a professional manner. This is going to set the pace for what to expect throughout your whole planning process. So guys, if you got anything that you could take away from this episode, subscribe, like, share, and follow us everywhere. And as a little bonus, I'm going to add the top 10 questions that you should be asking your planner right down there, as it will be an added bonus to keep you on pace and structured as you go through that process before you even sign on the dotted line.